Hey guys, I've got an interesting video I wanted to do for you guys today. I've been going through my collection, and something I didn't have a lot of anymore were flipper only knives. Knives that only have the flipper single method of deployment, right? I'm a middle finger flicker guy, and that's kind of what I thought I had evolved into. This is a very recent purchase, the Kaiser Mercury. This is one of my OGs. This is the Monteray Bay Knives Turbo in San Mai. A super, super nice micarta liner lock, flipper only knife that just fires out. And then I've got several Finch knives, and Finch kind of blends the traditional stylings with the modern elements and a flipper tab like this 1929 here. Just a really neat little knife. I think I've given one of these away, but I've held on to most of them. And the 10 that I'm getting ready to show you, which I would call the top 10 that are still in my collection, all kind of have a special place. They're unique knives. They're knives that I don't carry every day, but I do carry them quite a bit. And we're going to start with probably one of my oddest flippers, and that's the Spyderco Aushi. The Spyderco Aushi is made in Taichung, Taiwan. So it's going to have carbon fiber scales. It's got this little flipper wheel. When you pull it back, it releases that kind of upswept CPM 30 CV blade that is just super thin, super slicey, and it's got a compression lock. The blade disappears all the way into the handle, which you'll see on several of these knives, making them have a very low impact in terms of carrying them. So for example, this little knife is a full size, I would say long knife, plenty of blade length. However, it folds into its handle, has a wire clip, and takes up a very, very low pocket footprint. So coming in at number 10, we have the Spyderco Aushi. And then coming in at number 9, do you guys know what this is? Yes, no, maybe? This is my OG Kaiser Clutch. The Kaiser Clutch is one of the earlier Blade Series knives to combine carbon fiber with the titanium and the S35VN blade. This knife has some of the best detent, some of the best lockup for this bolster lock. It's again a full-size knife with a very utilitarian blade that's more the slicey sharp drop shut action. Again, the blade almost perfectly disappears into the handle, so when you drop it in your pocket, it takes up very little space. So what you lose in the ability to finger flick, you don't have as much sticking up out of the handle, and it just gives you a compact, smooth, elegant package. And that's why a lot of these knives, I'm convinced, have stayed in my collection. So moving on, I think that brings us to number 8. And number 8's a little unique knife that I picked up kind of as an impulse buy about a year and a half ago. This was a drop collaboration. It's the Brad Zinker Dogtooth. The Brad Zinker Dogtooth is a production knife of one of Brad's custom knives. He makes these knives with a very neutral handle, very aggressive compound Warncliffe blade, thinner up front than it is back here. Fantastic action. Titanium liners, titanium liner lock with a steel bar insert. Whoops. And then you've got this beautiful S35VN blade with the splinter digger on a medium-sized knife, or as Christine from Women Carry Knives would call, maybe a smedium. But just a great size knife, great action for a small flipper. You've got a finger choil, also a great sharpening choil, tight finger choil, but really small button, really flops out on a push button or on a light switch. And the detents, to me, it's a very fidgetable knife. And this is the Drop Brad Zinker Dogtooth. Really, really cool little knife. Moving on, we come to another knife that I got probably close to a couple of years ago. This is another knife from Monteray Bay Knife Company, Ray Laconico designed. This is the Slayback, not the Swayback, but the Slayback. It's designed after a Slayback knife. It's got this really cool Warncliffe blade. This is not the big one. This is a standard size. They also made this in a big Slayback, but it's got a fantastic inset liner lock, titanium handles, that Sanmai steel, delicious action, snappy detent. Whether you push button it or you take advantage of the way the jimps are and light switch it, it locks open and stays just drop shut. Great little knife, medium sized or medium, and I think that is 6. So I think that brings us to number 5. No? This is number 6. So number 6 is the smallest knife, flipper only, on this list. And this is a knife that I had no intention of getting. I've fully put the blame of this knife coming on my radar to E&G EDC. He was talking about it. It was the Blade HQ Voxnez exclusive. It's the little Dapper. And Ian said, John, I know you don't like flipper only knives. It's on sale. I think it was $109 at the time. It had been like $199. Little M390 micarta Jesper Voxnez designed, snappy little flipper. Small little blade, small little knife, but very able, very sharp, very fidgety, very flippable. And with the wire clip, it can be a primary carry or it can be a 5th pocket carry. Just a fantastic little knife. And coming in at number 6, we've got the Blade HQ. I kind of think of it as a giant mouse, but it's the Blade HQ Vox Dapper. So moving on, we come to probably one of my first over $300 knives that I'd ever bought, and it's still in my collection, guys. I've changed a lot since I bought this knife, but I still see the elegance in this knife. I still appreciate the action. I appreciate the way it's designed. This is the Arcform Slimfoot, guys. Just a very well done, hollow ground M390 blade, titanium frame lock, micarta inset, flipper only. You can't get to that groove. It looks like you could, but you can't. So it is a flipper only knife, but it's a joy to carry. It's a full-size knife. It's a hard use knife. And it's very slicey. So this is a great one for shredding cardboard, for opening up packages, for everyday carry, starting a fire, you name it. The Arcform Slimfoot is kind of a minimalistic, excellent package, and I'm a huge fan. It's probably a forever knife, even though I don't really go after flippers only. I've got a couple flippers only I bought the not so distant past, starting with this guy right here. I think this is going to be number 4. Or this is going to be number 5. This is the Mr. Designs Zero. I don't usually like button locks. I'm not a huge fan, or I take that back. There's certain button locks I like. I'm not a big fan of button locks. I purchased this knife second after buying a knife from Micah, Mr. Designs, the Cipher, which is a liner lock, which is also on this list, which I love. I was going back to buy the Cipher D, which is the drop point version of the Tonto, the Cipher I bought, and I saw this 0. I'd seen it on a channel. I didn't pay much attention. I didn't realize how thin the blade stock was. I didn't understand how smooth the knife was and how understated and elegant it is. Excuse me. So basically, you've got this almost perfect rectangle with this small corner here. You've got this blade that is perfectly set into the scales, flush. You give this corner just the littlest push down, the lock snaps open, and it's held by that plunge. Push that button, M390 blade falls shut. Probably one of the easiest deploying knives. It doesn't have what I'd call a traditional detent, but because of the geometry of the button, it's got serious action that feels very unique. So I talked to I forget his name, one of the owners of Mr. Designs, and he said, John, if you like the Cipher, you know you're going to like the Cipher D. I'd like to see you try the 0. And the 0 was about maybe $20 or $30 more than the Cipher D, but then I already had the Cipher, which I loved, so I bought some titanium scales for the Cipher and picked up the 0, and it is a flipper only knife. I carry it quite a bit, and it's just really a great EDC knife. Really, if you're doing professional urban type stuff, it doesn't even look like a knife in your pocket. So we will call this number 5 and move on to number 4. Number 4 is the newest one in this collection. I would not have been in the market for this. This is the Quiet Carry Large IQ in black titanium and M390. The reason my attention was drawn to this knife, I picked up over the holidays the Quiet Carry Drift, and I'd been bouncing back and forth on their website just seeing what was happening, and they had a Black Friday sale on several knives, one of which was this black IQ-L, which is the large IQ. Normally, I want to say it's about $310. They had it on sale for $149. So they had it in satin and black. I came back, they only had it in black, which is what I wanted anyway. So I bought it. Not, sight unseen, never handled one, didn't know if I'd like it. I've got a Waypoint. I like it, but I don't carry it that much. I've got a 9, I absolutely love, and I love the Drift. Guys, I can tell you this knife has really, really hit higher than I thought it would. For a flipper-only knife, it has fantastic access to the lock bar. The handle and blade are perfectly lined up, so you've got a super thin package, goes in and out of pocket simply, and just works very, very well. And it's a full-size knife. So this is not the old IQ that was a little smaller knife. This is the full-size IQ. I want to say the blade's like 3.5 inches. And I love the shape of the blade. I love the micro milling on the show side. I like the understated quiet carry on the blade and the M390 blade steel, and then just the plain black. I apologize for my sharpening gooped fingers. But that is the Quiet Carry IQ, which brings us to one of my top 3, and they're all so good. Yep, old news, Protect Malibu. The best button lock in the game. Nothing, in my opinion, is better. Yes, it's a little thick behind the edge, but it flips like a demon. It cuts like a razor, and it closes up when you need it to with no issues whatsoever. I didn't think there could be a better knife than this, but I found one. But that doesn't take anything away from this. This is my second Protect Malibu in 20 CV. Sold the first one I had that was the raw aluminum. I picked this one up in Nashville a couple years ago at the Nashville Custom Knife Show. 20 CV with the pattern, and I love it. Brings us to number 2. Another new knife from the designer that sold me this knife. This is the Mr. Designs Cipher. The Cipher comes with carbon fiber scales, making it a very light package. It's light with the titanium scales. I picked up these titanium scales after I bought the Cipher. I want to say they were $80. But this knife is thin. It is sleek. It is gentleman's carried personified. It goes in and out of the pocket like nobody's business. It has this tiny flipper that all you have to do is give it the tiniest pull, and the geometry of where it's positioned above this pivot rockets that blade into position. You cannot fail it, guys. You can push button it even though it doesn't even set up to push button, because you're instantly, when you start push buttoning it, it forces it down. But if you just grab this flipper and just pull back down the spine, she flies open. The Cipher D is the drop point. I wanted the Tonto. And guys, I have changed the scales. I had bought different pivot collars. I've got the green ones on now. I've got some purple collars. I've got gold collars. I did not buy the stonewash scales, but I did buy the black, and I put the carbon fiber back on from time to time. I've got one of my stainless, what do you call it, pivot rings stuck in one of my carbon fiber steel, or my carbon fiber scales, and I can't get it out. So anyway, I flipped this one around, but this is the Mr. Design Cipher. And guys, this is my #2 flipper in my entire collection. It's about the same size as the TRM Atom, OEM by Bestech, and it is just fire. My #1 flipper only knife, and there can only be one. Yes, sir. The ProTech Mordax. Fair and Forged design. ProTech collaboration. I had a little bit of detent lash. I called them. They said that's not normal. Send it back. Filled out the paperwork. Sent it back after having it for about a year. They told me they either fix it or get me another knife. They sent me a brand new knife, sealed, ready to go. Magna cut, aluminum. It's got the same thing that I love about the Malibu, which is the action and the button lock, because it's unlike any other button lock. But I've got a larger package with a slicier blade. So for me, personally, this is a great EDC size for a small knife. This knife doesn't take up hardly any more room in my pocket, just as thin, but it gives me a considerable more amount of blade, almost an inch of additional blade. So either one of these knives could be #1. Either one of the last 4 could be #1. Guys, I hate counting down to 1, because all of these, the fact that they've stayed in my collection, the fact that they're flipper knives that I honestly really quit picking up flipper knives because I wasn't using them. But every now and then a knife would come along like this, or like the Mr., or like the Mr. Zero, or like the little Blade HQ that I would have never known how much I liked. The Arcform, I picked it up back when I was doing flipper only. The MBK Slayback, that was one that I forgot what made me like that knife. And then the Brad Zinker Dogtooth, I just found that browsing along. And then the Kaiser Clutch, I think Metal Complex, somebody, maybe Nick Shabazz did a review on it. I found it on Amazon a couple years later. I wasn't an early adopter to the clutch. And then the Spyderco Aushi, I picked it up because I'd never seen anything like that. One of my first compression locks, Spyderco's, one of the first locks that I learned to actually use, because it's not as intuitive as you would think, but just great knives, guys. This is from a guy who says he doesn't like flipper-only knives. Point of the being is, keep your mind open, buy what you like because you like it, and then if you don't like it right away, put it away for a little while. 3 months maybe. Try it out again. Your needs might have changed. Your preferences might have changed. You might find knives that you've had for over 2.5 years that you don't even think about anymore that are absolutely fantastic pocket knives. Guys, thank you for watching my video. I know it's a little bit kind of random, but I figure since my channel is about kind of my walk through this knife game, that when I was looking through today, I said, I've got more flippers than I thought I did. Why don't I make a video about it? I hope you guys don't find it boring. I love each and every one of you. I appreciate you all more than you know. All I can ask is please look out for the guy or gal to your left. Please look out for the guy or gal to your right. Please look out for each other. Go forward with love in your heart. Choose debate, not hate. I love you all. Peace.